Hi, everyone. Welcome. I think we have a few more people will be dialing in the next few minutes, but that's fine. We'll just get started. We'll start with a quick introduction and then we will dive right into the content. So my name is Peter Nettesheim. I'm the co-founder of Influencer Hero. I will be your host today. And we have a very special guest, Olly Hudson. Olly, for the people who don't know you yet, could you give us a quick introduction on your side and the companies you have built?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Peter. Excited to dive into some TikTok shop stuff. I'm Olly, founder of Saw Group, as we call it. We're a group of e-commerce focused agencies comprising of Saw With Us and For You, which is focused on helping brands capitalize and scale on Meta. And then we've got our TikTok proposition, which is the focus of this session, For You advertising, where we started the business a couple of years ago with a real focus on actually prior to TikTok Shop launching, a focus on creative and paid media to unlock TikTok direct to web for brands. And then we've pivoted recently towards TikTok Shop after the boom of social commerce that we're all in right now, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Olly, you're so humble. I think most of the people in the audience probably already know you. You have over $100 million in ad spend, right? And you're the founder of the leading and one of the fastest growing D2C agencies in the UK. So I think, we are super honored to have you on this webinar today because I think what's super interesting for the audience is essentially for you being able to work with so many different brands that probably you are one of the best persons to talk to on what's going on in the D2C market right now, right? Versus to people who might work in-house as a CMO or head of growth. So we are super excited on this session. And we just finished Black Friday and Cyber Monday, which for everyone working in this industry is the busiest and most hectic time of the year. Do you have a little bit more breathing space right now, Olly, or is it still extremely busy with wrapping everything up from Q4?
Yeah, it's definitely died down a bit. I think it feels like it's organized chaos Black Friday, isn't it? You can't really say it's too chaotic, otherwise people won't want to work with you because you think you've not got things in order. But yeah, we had a really good November. It's that pressure point of executing on Q4 and then planning for 2026, right? It's difficult to do both. So yes, a lot of brands are full throttle all the way to the end of December. Then we actually have a lot of health and wellness brands in our portfolio that then have a massive January. So I guess it doesn't really slow down. Just keep pushing.
It never ends.
Yeah,
There's always a
yeah,
reason to drive additional campaigns.
yeah.
But I'm glad to hear that it went well for you guys, and obviously for all of the brands you work with. Um, I think, well, we will cover Black Friday and Cyber Monday a little bit, or actually more in depth towards the end of this webinar, right? In the debrief, which I'm super excited about. But first, the reason why most of you guys dialed in is TikTok Shop, right? So we'll cover this first. So we just quickly share my screen and we will dive right into the content. Yeah, amazing, Olly. We are super happy that you were able to join because we know how busy it is right now. So let's dive right in. So TikTok Shop, right? So from its launch in 2021, it has had explosive growth, right? In 2024, so last year, total GMV accounted to 33.2 billion US dollars globally, and this year it's expected to close at around 66 billion. So you see, right, this hockey stick growth. Olly, why would you say is TikTok Shops such an important opportunity for D2C brands right now?
I think it's that arbitrage opportunity, right? I think a lot of D2C brands uh, D2C brands are always looking for new avenues to effectively and efficiently acquire new customers, and the majority of our portfolios are pretty are wearing those like meta handcuffs of like most of their new customers are reliant on Facebook as a channel, and I think TikTok Shop represents a really significant opportunity to build a new strategy of developing awareness, driving new customer revenue through something that isn't owned by Meta. Whether that's for a brand that's very established, like many of the brands we work with, or it also represents an opportunity for those getting started, where the costs are lower, the competition is significantly lower, and therefore the price and that arbitrage opportunity that I mentioned is greater. So yeah, I think it's disrupting the marketing mix for established brands. It's providing a new route to market for newer brands, and it's also changing the behavior of shoppers, which I think is also something that everybody you have to keep in the back of your mind. Like, what's the macro trend that this represents? Like, social commerce is clearly here to stay. That graph is a hockey stick. Like, it's only going to keep going up and to the right, really. And I think that's exciting. I think whenever we've got a new channel that's very meaningful for brands to capitalize on it, it's an exciting opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. I think, right, also timing, right, because it's still quite new,
Yeah,
that brands can actually reap more rewards versus a platform which might has been there for 10 years or longer, where some of the opportunities might be already traded out. So I agree.
100%.
I think for merchants, looking to get better results, I think TikTok Shop is indeed a great opportunity, and just keeping well, also your eyes open for other opportunities like this, right? So
I
what
think
we do,
I think
go
a
ahead.
point on that is like that 66 billion sounds like a lot, but it's dwarfed by other channels like Meta, like Instagram, like Google, YouTube, even. So yeah, I think there's so much headroom in the US, and if you look at the UK, which is it's almost like a year behind America in terms of volume and competition, and then you've got Ireland, which only recently launched. I believe they've been talking about launching European regions. I can never remember where they are in that roadmap, but there's so many markets aren't even on the channel yet. So there's so much opportunity coming over 2026 as this expands.
Yeah, I think I read that there are currently around 17 countries active on TikTok Shop. And
Yeah,
Southeast Asia is actually quite big on TikTok. And I think they just recently launched a few countries in Europe. So the
yeah,
smaller countries in Europe, like the Netherlands or the Nordics, they're not even on there indeed. So if you're trading in those countries, right, you could be one of the first, which is definitely something you would like to be, right? You can kind of leverage that first mover advantage. Um, yeah,
yeah.
so indeed, 66 billion sounds a lot, but it's nothing compared to the other platforms, which means that there's a lot of room to grow. Um, what I will do now is basically give just a quick overview for the audience on what we will cover in this webinar, so you know exactly what you will get out of the webinar, and then we'll just go straight into the content. So first, we will cover TikTok Shop setup, right? So it's a little bit about infrastructure and also what kind of products and niches work well on TikTok. So a little bit general. Then what we will do is Olly will share on how to implement a creator affiliate or influencer affiliate marketing strategy to increase your affiliate revenue on TikTok Shop. Then we will cover paid ads on TikTok and how that works in tandem with your creator strategy. We will compare the platforms a little bit. So TikTok versus Meta or Instagram, right? What are the differences and how to capitalize on those differences in terms of strategy? And then the part which I might be the most excited about is the Black Friday debrief, right? As Olly is responsible for so much ad spend, we're super curious, right? What really worked during Black Friday. So he will share that during the debrief, and then how to position your brand for 2026. So this is the content which we'll cover in today's webinar. What I want to do now is just quickly create a poll and ask the audience if they're already on TikTok Shop, or if they have recently started, or if they have been longer on TikTok Shop than 12 months. So I would just do, how long are you on TikTok Shop? And then this, I think, will be in the chat. Not yet. So please just respond there. less than 12 months, and
See how
then
everyone's at.
longer than 12 months.
Interested to know if we have any, for those that have been on the platform longer, like what percentage of total revenue are you driving through TikTok Shop?
That is super interesting as well. Maybe people can just put that in the comment section. I see already 3 votes for less than 12 months. So votes are coming in. So Olly, you mentioned how much percent of revenue people are making on TikTok Shop versus other platforms, right?
Yeah, I just think it's interesting.
Yeah.
I think there's functionally different types of businesses built on TikTok Shop. I feel like there's those that start on TikTok Shop and they are TikTok Shop first. And there's those that are already D2C propositions and maybe or Amazon and they come onto the channel. And I think those present different challenges. I think when you've already got a commercial structure across D2C, maybe retail, and then you're trying to activate on TikTok Shop, the challenges are very different to if you start in from zero. I think there's a lot of different things you need to consider for those two setups, which we can talk through as we go through the session.
Yeah, agree. I think if you are TikTok Shop first brand, I think the advantage you have is that you really specialize on the platform, right? Versus the brands who are already driving this, well, significant amounts of the acquisition on other platforms is kind of a side project. But yeah, definitely interesting to see. And I'm sure that that differs in how you would approach it, depending on where you're at or what kind of brand you are. I think we have kind of the results from the post. So 50% hasn't started yet, and the other 50% is on TikTok Shop, but less than 12 months, right? Which I guess also makes sense because it's such a new platform. So we definitely have a lot of people who are already on TikTok Shop.
Good to hopefully we can help.
Yeah. What I will do now is just briefly, right, for the people who don't know what TikTok or how TikTok Shop works. So this takes a few seconds. I think everyone should know how it works, like in general, but just quickly, it's a marketplace, right, on TikTok. So basically, the customers they check out on the platform, right? So you don't have to go to Shopify or to exit the social media platform. The customer can directly check out in TikTok Shop. That's essentially how it works. And brands can have their own storefront, and creators can have their own storefronts, and essentially you have your basket, and yeah, you can check out in the app. Now, there are certainly products and categories which work better on TikTok Shop and others where it's more challenging. Olly, could you share a little bit more on what kind of categories or niches work really well on TikTok Shop versus which might be more challenging on the platform?
Yeah, I ultimately think this is this has developed a lot over the last 12 months, especially around the AOV piece. Like you can see brands like Shark Ninja in the UK, who, although they're like an enterprise business for a household name, they're operating at a much higher AOV, £100 plus. But I do think the platform is in its current state. You will find it easier to execute if you're sub $50 AOV, and really a business that operates within that kind of impulse purchase, that area of impulse purchase, or has a product that's got a really clear wow factor. I say wow factor is like it's got something visual that's that really captures attention. It's got a very clear before and after. It solves a really large problem. It's easy to demonstrate, and therefore it makes creative execution a lot easier. Strong gross margin. I think this is one of the real key things. Is like there's a lot of fees that have to come out of the P&L when looking at TikTok Shop. So you've got the platform fee, you've got affiliate commissions. You then also, it is a platform of irresistible offers. I don't think the offer always has to be discount. We don't have to be throwing 50% off, 30% off. That's not the only way to create an offer. Like it can be additive, it can be bundles, it can be gift with purchase. But fundamentally, there is a lot more cost involved relative to, say, a Meta, where you're paying a fixed CPA and generating full margin on that product at the point of conversion. So I think really thinking you are set up to build better offers if you have higher gross margin, and you probably need to be more creative if you have less margin to play with to still generate the same outcome on the channel. And then the final point is just like TAM and total addressable market. I think this is that holds for any product really. Like the brands that get to the greatest volume are the ones that have products that can appeal to multiple personas. Well, we live in a world of like persona driven creative now currently, especially on both TikTok and Meta. So the more personas we have to go after, the more personas we can uncover from our testing process, our research process, which I'll go into in further slides, the greater the volume that you're able to generate through the platform. But yeah, I think the key call out here is like these aren't like fundamental requirements. I think these are the things that make TikTok like a no brainer. If you can tick all of these off, it's like you are set up perfectly to do the platform. I don't think you should be looking at it if you maybe you don't have one of these elements isn't aligned to your brand or proposition. I wouldn't say that means you shouldn't do it. I think it just means that you have to be a little bit more creative with the way you approach the channel and the platform.
Yeah, makes sense. So if you're in the audience and basically you can check off all these bullet points, then you should definitely get started. And indeed, like otherwise, yeah, it doesn't mean that it's not possible, but maybe in certain angles it's a little bit more challenging and you have to get more creative. I do remember the time when TikTok was actually sponsoring a lot of the discounts because they wanted to hype up the platform. Is
Yeah,
that still happening, or did that end a while back already? Do you know that?
there's still thresholds for free shipping incentives based on AOV. There's still TikTok led offers that can really help with funding the platform. Obviously, that usually comes after a certain point of revenue generation where you're driving enough value to them for them to offer you that.
Yeah.
And that can certainly help if you've got like more challenging margin position, if you really lean into them and you're really active with their team, taking advantage of those offers. But I do think over time they are gonna. You'd imagine that they're gonna have to. They can only offer those for so long.
Yeah, makes sense. And you said they also take a platform fee, so they take a percentage commission on the GMV.
Yeah, I think that's the key for the channel is like you really need to spend time in the seller center analyzing and making sure you're like super clear on all of the costs that come out of that GMV, especially as you start to spend more on ads, because it will often vary by creator. Like you'll have people at different commission levels, you'll have maybe different products that you're pushing that have different margin profiles, and you can very quickly eat into the profit that comes out of the channel if you're not super clear on doing that analysis on a monthly basis and adjusting and really setting up like a plan, a forecast, and a commercial structure that works for the product or the business. TikTok platform fees at 9%. So I think you also have to account for that.
Yeah, that's quite expensive. I mean, not as expensive as Amazon, I think, but still, because you don't really have that organic listing like on Amazon yet. Although it is also marketplace, right? Because Amazon, they justify, I think they take around 20%. They justify because you get organic, right? They basically, the 20% is your marketing cost. Is that similar on TikTok Shop? Because you still are responsible for your acquisition yourself, right? Um, are you still there, Ali? Oh, I think we have a quick connection issue on Ollie's side. Oh, there you are.
Sorry, is that me?
Yeah, I'm not
Sorry,
sure, but you're
I'm
back.
not sure.
We can hear you. We can hear you. No worries.
Something froze. Sorry.
Um, I was just asking, just out of curiosity, right? Because Amazon is taking around 20%. I think they justify it essentially because you have organic, right? People search and you get sales, and the
Yeah,
20% are your acquisition cost. is there something similar on TikTok Shop? Because I think they do have a marketplace structure where you can justify the 9% as acquisition cost, or are you still responsible completely yourself for acquisition? Because then maybe the 9% is actually also still quite aggressive, I would say.
Yeah, I think there is the shop tab and you are able to browse shops, but the main discovery mechanism is content. I see TikTok and Amazon as functionally different steps in the customer journey. For
Yeah.
most D2C brands trading on Amazon, Amazon is a demand capture channel. It's rarely a demand generate. It usually does more of a demand capture job than it does a demand creation. So yes, you get some organic sales there, but a lot of it's picking up people who would have maybe considered buying on direct to consumer and just find it easier to buy on Amazon. TikTok Shop, I think, is more of a discovery channel, and there's actually the opposite is true. Like there's that halo effect into Amazon, into retail, into D2C. So I think you're paying that 9% commission on platform, not ideal, but you're also getting benefits that aren't measured solely on TikTok Shop. Be that the halo effect, but also like the creative learnings that you can take to other channels from creators. So yeah, I think it's not ideal, but it's just what we've got to work with.
Yeah. I mean, if you make a lot of sales, then you're still happy to pay 9%, I guess. Perfect. Then maybe a little bit more on TikTok Shop setup, right? And also a little bit on infrastructure. So if a brand is just starting out on TikTok Shop, Olly, what would you say are kind of the things they need to have prepared in terms of shop setup and also maybe some infrastructure wise in order to succeed on TikTok Shop?
One is like syncing inventory and fulfillment. I think that's like I actually don't have a ton of expertise there. There's a lot of documentation on TikTok and a lot of videos that you can go to. It's the boring stuff, but it's the important stuff. You need TikTok Shop to be speaking to Shopify, to syncing inventory so that you don't end up out of stock in one location and continue selling somewhere else. 3PL then also speaking to TikTok can be a challenge, but I think they've got a lot better at supporting with that process. We support our clients with that. You can also obviously fulfill with TikTok if that's something you want to pursue. It depends on the business. Often some of our clients will opt to go down that route. Others may own the 3PL and therefore do it in house or have a setup that works with TikTok. I think so. Beyond that kind of boring technical setup, I think a really key thing is that trading framework and looking at TikTok Shop and how it fits within your broader business strategy. Again, less important if you're starting just from the ground up on TikTok Shop and that is all you're going to be doing from 0 to 1. But I think where a lot of established D2C brands can go wrong, and we see this a lot in our Meta agency, is like they'll be doing huge volumes on D2C, they'll be selling in retail, and then they'll go and undercut that completely on TikTok Shop, and their whole commercial model will be undermined by selling the product too cheap on TikTok Shop as a channel, and it'll have an adverse impact on your other sales channels. So I think really sitting down and figuring out where it fits, looking at your margins, looking at your offers. The channel needs to be built around a hero offer in that to get traction. Like we want to be focusing on one offer as our main driver of affiliates and content and growth. That offer needs to tick boxes from a perceived value perspective, but it also needs to tick boxes from an outcome for the business. So do you need to make X amount of profit margin through TikTok Shop to make it work for you? If so, what does that offer need to look like? And how do we build a forecast and a structure that works over time? Maybe some brands will run it to break even because they take the halo effect into other channels. But that's the work you need to really sit down and do at leadership level and figure out where does this sit in the marketing ecosystem? What's the outcome it needs to produce when looked at holistically and not in isolation? And then I think a key like quick win that we see brands and we support brands with is like, how do we use existing channels to give ourselves a launch platform on TikTok Shop? So we talk a lot about this flywheel effect. That 0 to 1 is the really hard part, like getting momentum behind a shop, because that acts as a signal to creators to work with you. Like they want to come to you and work with the brand. So pulling in, if we've got an influencer community off that maybe lives on a different channel, how do we use that to encourage people to go and sign up as an affiliate? How do we do CRM pushes to the shop, etc.? Like you can be quite creative with how we do that 0 to 1. But yeah, I think key to think through these three areas when getting going.
Yeah, I heard a brand, what they did is basically leverage their newsletter. So you have your newsletter, right, with a lot of subscribers, and then they announce the launch on TikTok Shop because usually you would run the newsletter sales to your Shopify or CMS. And then
Yeah,
what they did is basically, yeah, they leveraged the newsletter to make a big push into TikTok Shop. So that
yeah.
might be one of the examples.
I think that launch period is the area that we really think about. Like, how do you get creative with that launch moment? How do you launch with a huge volume of content in almost like a bomb sort of approach? It's like, how do you show up on the platform with loads of affiliates on a specific over a specific few days where they're posting a high volume of videos? So you can look internally at like how can you leverage your current audience, or you can go to, so there's so many affiliate, we run an affiliate community. There's so many affiliate communities run by other vendors and in general that you can leverage to try and create that moment of launch on the channel.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we get into creators right now, actually. And indeed, like creators is another way, right? Because if you do the communication strategy and you share that you're launching on TikTok Shop to a lot of creators, and then they all post on the day of launch, it could kind of create that, well,
Yeah.
the kind of the launch or bomb effect, which you mentioned, and building up that hype. Yeah, is actually a good bridge to the next section because, well, essentially, influencer marketing is essential on TikTok Shop, right? I think most of the brands which really succeed, they have a solid influencer strategy backing their TikTok Shop. Olly, could you? I think you also work directly besides paid ads on these kind of affiliate strategies. Could you share maybe for the audience how a approach would look like, right? I mean, we all want to work with influencers, but we might not know how to do it best. Could you share us kind of or the process how you would recommend to really leverage influencers for affiliate marketing on TikTok Shop?
Yeah, I think we use influencer and affiliate like interchangeably, I guess. But like
Yeah.
I think affiliates are like the backbone of of the platform. I think we have to think of them as like your sales team. So they're your like content creator sales team. So like, how do we recruit them? How do we engage them? How do we incentivize them? And how do we extract more value from them for the brand over time? I think recruitment, you can do a lot of that on platform inside TikTok. You can obviously do one-to-one outreach, you can use automation, etc. I think that's becoming more and more competitive. It's becoming harder to cut through the noise. Like good affiliates are getting 10 to 20 messages a day from brands. I think it's thinking there, how do we differentiate? How do we show up differently? How do we really sell ourselves to the creator, which I think is a key frame to keep in mind, especially if you're early like starting on the platform and you've not got a massive presence. They're probably not going to know who you are, so sell to them. um you can also then look off platform, so Influencer Hero, really strong tool for a database of creators, and then doing that tailored outreach to engaging them in a similar way. It's like, how do we sell to them in a way that makes them really want to work with you as a brand? So I think that's like making it clear, making it personalized, also making the incentive structure work well. So we want them to be trying to get them to like five-ish pounds, dollars an order. An affiliate commission is like a perfect incentive for a creator. So like, how do we set that up in the back end, especially in the start, in those early months, to provide them with enough incentive to want to work with you? I think there's a you kind of see I kind of see the affiliate market as like a pyramid. It's like the majority of creators produce very little outcome. And it's like, how do we find and engage those creators that are good at creating content with your brand? And that's why I think you really have to do the thing, be creative with how you engage these individuals. So yeah, tools like Influencer Hero, you can go into communities that I mentioned on WAP, on Discord, recruit in there, Facebook communities. There's loads of places to engage and pull them into your own community and your own affiliate strategy. Um, in terms of like, so you've got the entry point, and then it's about building that pyramid of value as well. So as they drive more GMV for you, how are you going to move them up a pyramid of reward for them? So that's creator championships, it's better commission structures, it's specific, it's engaging your top affiliates with new products early and giving them incentives that are greater than those who have just entered that program. And I think what we're seeing is that trend towards community and relationships. And I think that comes back to the fact that pyramid structure is like, really good affiliates are really, really valuable because most affiliates aren't very good. And it's like, brands need to approach this through like, how do we train and develop our affiliates to produce better content for us and therefore move up that pyramid? And how do we engage those affiliates that already produce amazing content with the right offer and structure to pull them to your brand rather than working with the other 50 brands that want to work with them? So yeah, I think clear briefs and follow-ups, those are like hygiene. It's like, how are we doing this best in class for brands to drive that outcome of affiliate growth and GMV growth over time? I think that's the challenge that brands need to solve.
In terms of briefs, do you share with the creators the way, because obviously, right, you as a performance marketeer, you know how a creative should be structured or is best structured in order to perform. Like, do you give these types of briefs to the creators in terms of like including a strong CTA at the end or being creative with the hook or something, that direction, so they know how to make that post? Do you share, is that what the brief entails? Or
yeah, so we've tested quite a few different things here. We've done like very light briefs where we just say like, here's a few hooks, here's a few benefits, problems, just like in message format. We've also done like one pages. We're moving more towards like research and then training sessions. So like sessions like this with a creator community going through how to sell the product. And I think, again, it comes back to like that data of that pyramid of like, we need to move creative. We need to make creators better because we need to create a high volume of great ads that we can put spend behind to drive GMV growth. So yeah, we're putting more and more time into that process of how we like give them the information and education they need to drive the results for the brands.
that makes sense. I think it's also great that at the same time you're engaging them a lot, right? By helping them, you and doing sessions, even like calls with them, you engage them so much, really build that relationship and basically increase, well, the longevity of that relationship with that creator. And I think indeed what you said, also personalization, right? Because these influencers, they get so many messages. And for example, here you see an example in Influencer Hero. We can actually look at the content and create personalized messaging. So that way you make sure that every message is personalized, it's not generic, because chances are the creator will just ignore you because 5 or 10 other brands have reached out to them.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. What we will do now is kind of make that step from affiliate and influencer marketing to paid ads. And you already mentioned a little bit, right, how the UGC is being used and all the things, but maybe a little bit more higher level in terms of the creative strategy on TikTok. Could you just kind of walk us through what the creative strategy looks like and how you help the brands you work with to succeed with paid ads on TikTok? Because previously we discussed affiliate, but now we really dive into paid ads?
Yeah. I think like when looking at the constraint of growing brands through affiliates on TikTok Shop, for us it always comes back to that view of like I think influencers as a channel is very valuable. I think affiliates, many brands are playing a look and numbers game when they're going out and working with affiliates because the majority of affiliates don't drive meaningful revenue. So it's like, how do we solve that fundamental constraint? And it's a lot around the education and what we're uniquely good at as a group of agencies is we make 5,000+ meta ads a month, and underpinning that is a creative process that consistently makes great paid media assets that allow us to spend 100 million plus on Facebook this year. So like we're pulling this into TikTok Shop because I see the process for Meta as being the same for TikTok, just the execution sits with the affiliate rather than our team. So the process is the same, but the person who makes the content is different. So we pulled in our creative research process, which is how we really get into the mind of a customer and understand how to sell a product and how to make creative that resonates with an audience on TikTok. And it's broken down into competitor, audience, social, and market research. So we'll go through using Fastmos or using Callow data. We'll look at like top competitors, top affiliates, top ads, top affiliate assets that have driven the most GMV for those brands. We're looking for like common trends across those, like what insights can we take about how they're selling the product, what problems, what objections, what visual frameworks can we take. We're looking at audience, so we're pulling in like AI. We're pulling in reviews from their Shopify, and we're doing an AI review mining process, and then it's telling us like why people buy that product, what are the problems it's solving, what's the before state, what's the after state, like, and this allows us to build this insight breakdown of like what's the customer persona, what's like the common formats within the category at the moment, like what's the benefits that these people are looking for, what's the problem we're solving, what's the before and after state. And that allows us to build a picture for those sessions of like what's the best way to sell this product and how do we translate that to something that affiliates can go and use in their content output. Obviously this on screen is interpreted by a creative strategist, so it's about simplifying this and taking out the core messages and putting that in front of them. But this is a process that constantly drives insight and that feedback loop to creators of like how do we constantly make better creative every month. So I think this is a really important process. I think every brand has a ton of data available to them that can help them brief creators well, even if they're starting from zero. So competitors is also always one, but again, download your CSV of reviews and just put it into ChatGPT and prompt it on what's the common problems that my product solve, what's the before state of customers, what are the common objections, what are the failed previous solutions, and those build a picture of maybe how we can sell the product to people on the channel and how affiliates can use that in the messaging.
Yeah. So this is essentially the research process, right? Which is very extensive. Essentially, the more research you do, the better you know the details about the product, which will help you in a creative process. Look, Olly, you previously mentioned that on TikTok, it are essentially the creators which make the content versus maybe other platforms where it might be the agency or the in-house marketing team. Is this because on TikTok the majority or all the content is just posted by the creators, or what's there exactly the difference why the content on TikTok is solely or mostly created by the creator versus maybe in-house?
We've focused a lot on affiliates, but like I see the formula for scale on GMV Max, like what's the inputs needed to scale GMV Max to whatever revenue target you have. It's just spend times asset times great assets. And affiliates is one way to create that, but you could also do this research and then put your organic team, task your organic team with turning this into organic posts that you could then pull into that campaign, or you could just go make creative off platform and upload it into the GMV into the GMV Max campaign as well. We've actually had quite a few clients where we've taken ads that have worked very well on Meta and pulled them into TikTok GMV Max and just sent traffic to shop, and it's worked really well. And I think that is like an example of the ad is great, like the message, the way it gets in, the way it talks to a specific persona, the framework it uses, and therefore it doesn't really matter where we distribute it. We can spend it on Meta or we can spend on TikTok. It still converts at the right CAC. So yeah, I think affiliates is a starting point. I think you have to do affiliates to do the channel well, but I think the focus is how do we make the right volume of good assets to scale over time.
Yeah, I think creating volume is most of the brands and agency which work with us. They work with a lot of creators just to fill that gap of creative volume. So a lot of them, they're working with some of them hundreds of new creators each month.
Yeah,
And what essentially then happens is that you get so many assets, right? I think if you work, let's say, with 100 new creators each month, you probably get around 120 to 130 new creatives, because each influence might make, or some of them might make 2-3 assets, right?
yeah.
And that makes just the process so much easier, and also less cost intensive versus doing it in-house. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you want to try and get your creators making a video a day, really. If they've got the incentive and you're providing with the inputs and the feedback, and the more revenue they make, the more money they make, the more money you make. It's very incentive aligned. So you want to try and engage, get focus on building those relationships, because they'll learn and create better and better output over time.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's all about communicating that the creator and you have the same objective, right? Because if you offer them 20, 30, and that's also one thing I'm always surprised that people are they don't pay that much commission to the influencer, right? And I always say be a bit more generous on the commission, because A, there's an unattribution rate where tracking gets lost, and B, you're
Yeah,
paying way less than what you're paying on Meta on your acquisition. So why not, be more generous and incentivize the creator, because they will put more effort into it, which will help both of you, right?
yeah. I think you should go as aggressive as possible at the start.
Yeah,
And you can figure out how you then pull that down or you adjust. But yeah, definitely when trying to get that initial momentum.
yeah. I mean, in affiliate, you are essentially always, well, not always, but you have to be very aggressive to not be profitable, right? I mean, if you're at 20, 30%, you're always profitable essentially. So agree. I also always recommend to be more aggressive on the affiliate offer. Um, Yeah, let's maybe go first to this one, because you already mentioned GMV Max quite a bit. So just for the people in the audience who don't know how GMV Max is, this is something TikTok released quite recently, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Um, Ollie, could you just kind of explain how GMV Max works and how it is different compared to previously?
Yeah, I think it rolled out early. I can never remember the date, but it rolled out earlier this year. It was a bit messy when they forced every business over to it with no choice of had to use it from a certain point, as every ad platform seems to do when they like to launch a new feature. Um, in simple terms, like GMV Max is a little bit like PMax and a little bit like ASC. It's like that more of a black box approach to media buying on TikTok. It's a view of giving TikTok more control, consolidating assets and automating some of that media buy. It's the newest version of that paid ads side of the TikTok Shop platform. I think it's still really important when setting this up to do things like campaign per product. Like we want to optimize those to different targets, so we don't want to combine them all into the same campaign. And I'd say it's still imperfect. It's still something that I think TikTok are working on. They're working on surfacing more and more data, because at the very start you basically couldn't get any data out of it other than top line numbers. That's improved a lot over the last 6 months, and I'm sure it'll continue into next year. But yeah, it's the approach to ad buying on TikTok Shop compared to direct to web, which still operates on more of like a meta ad account basis, where you can really place the media yourself and make more decisions. I think we're slowly entering an era, like more of a paid ads era. It feels like that's already the case in America or US, where I guess every platform goes through that massive period of organic arbitrage where you can get huge scale and results without spending on paid. But it's feeling certainly like TikTok Shop as an ecosystem is becoming more pay to win, similar to how or Instagram, similar to basically how every social channel goes. They go from being organic to paid over time as competition increases. So yeah, we're focusing a lot of our attention on how do we create an environment or a process to provide GMV Max with the volume of assets it needs to succeed. And I guess that's similar to on Facebook as well. That's how we think about Meta. So yeah, that's a summary, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's more and more automated, right? So
Yeah.
I guess we're going into a direction more and more where media buying is, you have less control essentially, and the platform is doing most of the work, or at least, yeah, the black box. What you're saying, you don't know exactly what is happening, but I guess the whole creative aspect is still there, right? You still need to upload all those creatives, and I guess creative volume is essentially still, and testing a lot of creatives is what makes the
Yeah,
difference.
it automatically pulls in creative, but it can be quite lagged. So it's always worth checking on that if you've got a really high volume manually and doing it yourself. It's important still to be quite active. I think like you need to be reviewing budgets. Although it's like um, you can through media buying drive better outcomes. So like daily trends, like how demand looks from day to day. Like it still requires oversight, but yeah, it is definitely getting more automated versus previous.
Yeah, makes sense. Um, Maybe real quick on hooks, because well, we all know that in media buying, right, the hook is if not one of the most important elements of your creative. I think especially on TikTok, because everything is so fast, right? It's even faster than some of the other platforms, right? Attention spans are so low. Um, what would you say, Ollie, are some of the strategies, the brands you work with in terms of creating good hooks and essentially through those hooks helping to stop the scroll?
Yeah, I guess this is like the 80/20 of creative. It's not, that doesn't mean that a good hook is always conducive with amazing results. And it doesn't mean that a bad hook makes everything a bad ad, because sometimes you'll see in an account that just something with a really low thumb stop ratio will be performing like crazy. But what we need to be looking at with those first couple of seconds, especially on a platform like TikTok that's more impulsive, people watch more and more like people are scrolling. It's the attention spans are lower. It means that the to capture attention we need to work harder. And I could talk about hooks. Like I pulled a few notes here from a training session that we did internally. That's like 30 slides long that we're going to put on YouTube in a few weeks, I think. But I picked out like the three key things that I wanted to touch on. I think where we see brands go wrong here is like they don't speak to and resonate with a specific persona. So they don't call out a specific like group of people and a specific problem. Sometimes they'll be trying to call out too many people, or they'll be too general and therefore doesn't resonate with anyone. Um, Secondly, I think it's like multiple layers. So we think about hooks in layers. You've got like visual, you've got audio dialogue, and then you've got text. I think the best hooks combine all three of those in a way that's super enticing and very like engaging. So like transitions, swipes, pattern interrupts, which like I mentioned below. But building on that with this audio, because TikTok's very sound on, and then also with a text overlay for those people who are maybe not watching with audio. So we want to layer those on top of each other to create a really effective hook. I think, but the formula we talk about internally is like pattern interrupt, clear angle, that resonates with a specific persona and problem. And I think the final thing is like curiosity loop. Like people want to watch those first 3 seconds coming away with like questions or curious to learn more within that asset in itself. So whether that's the story that someone's telling, whether that's like we've seen so many good ads where it's someone telling a story about a personal experience that eventually brings in a product, but maybe that product doesn't come in till like 30 seconds. People are watching that video, and as they watch it, they're qualifying themselves because it's just an interesting story that's building curiosity. I think you could also do that on the product. So you can call out let me think of an example off the top of my head. You could call out like, you won't believe how I stopped X problem. Ever wondered why X? If you think you know X, think again. It's like calling things out, building that curiosity that makes people want to watch more of the video. But we'll be sharing, as I said, a 45 to an hour long masterclass on this on our YouTube channel in the coming weeks, how to really make hooks, because it's a big topic.
You will share us on your D2C Diaries YouTube channel, or?
Yeah. I'll drop a link for those watching.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I think also for the people who watch the recording later, I will actually drop the link in the description on our YouTube channel to Olly's podcast, D2C Diaries. I think in terms of hooks, Olly, is there any way, I think you already mentioned it quickly, but for people to measure or KPI how the hook is performing? If you don't know, right, if the hook is performing well or not, are there certain KPIs to basically measure this?
Yeah, we want to be looking at thumb stop ratio, which on Meta is 3-second impression, 3-second watches divided by impressions, times by 100, but on TikTok it's 2. So I think that's like that percentage measure is what we'd look at, and I think above 30% is a good hook.
Okay, thumb stop ratio, yeah.
Yeah,
amazing. Okay, perfect. Well, then, well, definitely check out the session which Olly's publishing. You said in a few weeks on hooks. Yeah, awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. We look forward to that. So we covered this in terms of the creative strategy and in terms of the process, right? Because I think one of the reasons a lot of people want to work with influence again is because of that creative volume, right? And some people say the more creative you test, the better. Other people say you still need to have a good win rate on those creatives, right? So sometimes maybe people in the audience don't know exactly how many creatives you essentially should test. Do you have any kind of recommendations on merchants? I'm not sure if it ranges in terms of revenue size or kind of category or niche, but how many creatives on a weekly basis would you recommend brands to test in order to succeed? And let's say for now on TikTok.
I think it's quite relative to spend. We look at like average spend per asset internally. Again, I'm taking something from Facebook and applying it to TikTok. But like if you can, because people talk a lot about volume or quality, and it's like you want to be in the middle. You want to be, and the only way to really create a KPI around that is like how much on average am I creative spending, because it captures the full process. So we look at average spend per asset, and you can go for, so if you're on average spending £1,000 per ad, and you're wanting to spend 100,000 a month, then you know that you either need to make better ads or more, and therefore increase that average spend, or you either need to make better ads and increase that average spend if you want to go from 100 to 200k a month, without creating more assets. If you're making 100 already, sorry, I butchered this a bit, or you need to make more volume. So I think we look at what we're trying to spend and what our creative requirement is relative to those goals. It's really hard. I really find it really hard to give a benchmark, but I think we want to be making a process that delivers more and more high quality assets every week. You've got to assume that creative requirement increases over time relative to spend. And if anything, you have to start to apply like a multiplier, because you get diminishing returns as you get bigger, because it becomes harder to get in front of new audiences. So yeah, I think like 20 plus a week for GMV Max is an initial target. you're playing a bit of an outlier game again, and I think the temptation is always to just make more and more and more. But I think it's a balance of doing that and trying to improve the quality of the output you're already producing with the affiliates you're working with currently. And then yeah, just creative fatigue is very rapid, much faster than Facebook. And that's why you've got to focus on the process. Like, how do you continuously drive more output? Because you can never stop this process. It's evolving. It's always on. You want to always be improving it over time.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that middle ground, right? You also can't spend too much time on working on the creative because you essentially also need to test to get the data in, right? So if you're
Yeah,
spending way too much time, you're not executing fast enough. But then at the same time, if you're just pushing out creatives without really doing the research and thinking through, then the win rate might be very low. So you kind of what you're saying, have that middle ground, right?
yeah,
But yeah, I think on TikTok, what you mentioned, because the creative fatigue is so quick, right? You might even need more volume because well, you need fresh creatives all the time.
yeah.
Maybe real quick regarding performance, what do you often see? And this can maybe also be on Meta in terms of winning ads, right? Because we test creatives all the time. What kind of percentage do you typically see which are really high performing, with which you can scale your ad spend? Is there then also a bucket of like medium performing, and then you probably have a lot of creatives which are essentially shit and you have to turn off? Is there anything you could share on that? I know it's again difficult to generalize, but
It's much lower on TikTok because I think we don't control the full process. We're reliant on affiliates, which we don't have control of currently. So we're trying to build more control. So it's that stat that 1.9% of affiliates on TikTok produce over £1,000 of GMV in their lifetime. It's like that is a low percentage. So that drives
yeah,
down cost, that drives down spend per asset on TikTok. So we're seeing like 5% of creatives win. And what you define as win is relative to the brand. On Meta, we're looking for a much larger percentage than that. I think that's exactly what you mentioned. Like, it's that balance of speed and quality. You don't want to be too far in either way, um, because you'll either not learn fast enough or you'll not produce any good ads. It's like, I think it's
yeah,
a balance, and that's where the strategy comes in.
yeah, that makes sense. I think what's funny is with creators is essentially that when I talk to merchants, that you also get creators which you have never thought of, because if you have a lot of creators making content, some of them are very, very creative and they come up with ideas which you as a brand would never have
Yeah,
thought of, and all of a sudden those creators might perform really well.
I think
So
that's a really big benefit of TikTok Shop as well. It's like you're democratizing creativity. Like you're because I think a lot of brands operate in a box. Like they put themselves in a box and they think like a brand, and they only think that this is the only way this is the only persona to sell to. Or I would like so you can see, like you mentioned, TikTok affiliates come up with the craziest ideas that the internal team would never have thought of, that you can then pull to Facebook and other channels. So it's got a lot of benefits there for sure.
yeah, yeah, 100%. Um, I think we touched quite a bit on this already. Anything which we missed on TikTok vs Meta? I think we already said, like, right, key difference essentially that TikTok is a lot faster. Anything else in terms of like key difference in the creative strategy or in general in the on the ecosystems which you want to highlight?
I think TikTok is obviously just more offer focused. That's probably the big thing. Like most creators will have an offer in there. Like whether it's not always at the start, but somewhere like you're pushing a bundle, you're pushing a discount. I actually think these platforms have been on like a path to becoming more and more similar over the last like 2 years, really, since UGC really boomed on Meta. We're also, when we're looking at our creative process for Facebook, we're using TikTok Shop as a source of inspiration. So I think, I think that's another benefit, and I think there is some differences. We've talked through most of them, but I'm sure that'll continue to become more and more similar, I think, over time.
Yeah, it's also because Meta keeps copying all the new players.
Yeah, yeah. Mark
So
Zuckerberg loves copy and pasting the features.
exactly. So automatically things become the same. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Then let's go. Yeah, I think to one of the segments which I think a lot of the people in the audience have been looking forward to, me including. Right, I think most of the D2C brands, not all of them, but a lot of them, they drive significant revenue during Q4, and actually also most of our profits. Right, so I think, well, you being able to work with so many different brands and controlling so much ad spend, have a very good insight on what's going on during Black Friday. Maybe a little bit, in terms of numbers, do you know how much ad spend approximately you guys across your agency group spend during, or will be spending during this Q4? So like October, November, December, or is that you don't know yet because December hasn't finished yet?
We spent about $40 million in November.
Crazy.
So quite a
Yeah.
lot in that month. I don't know about the rest of the quarter, but we spent a lot across November.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big period. I think it was the every year it gets larger for the brands that we work with. The brands that get the best results do the hard work for the whole. It's your success in Q4 is defined by the work you do Q1 to 3. I think a clear plan, a really clear strategy that you're going to work and execute, and hard work done on capturing attention and doing the right things to build up to then capturing that demand and maximizing the outcome over the period. Top level, like biggest thing that I feel like works across every channel, across every business is simplicity. Like there's a huge like temptation to overcomplicate this period. I think it become when you're close to a business or a problem or an industry, you think that everybody, like consumers, think in the same way as you, and it's like couldn't be further away from the truth. Like a lot of them can barely use Facebook and Instagram and the internet, never mind understand a 4-tier offer with quantity discounts up to whatever. It's like keeping it simple. And I think that offer is the key lever. Again, regardless of channel, but especially on TikTok. We had brands that maybe had poor starts to the period, and we pivoted the offer, and it completely changed the trajectory of the outcome for November because we were reactive to that data. But yeah, getting offer right, a lot of product bundling, a lot of gift with purchase, quite a lot of Black Friday exclusives on TikTok worked really well. That allowed you to drive AOV up in a period when discounting would usually drive it down because you're creating an irresistible offer without just giving away margin, and it drives conversion rates. So I think that was a really strong strategy that we employed quite effectively across a number of brands. Paid spend was really important on TikTok Shop. I think again it's becoming more pay to win. I feel like the November period is the most competitive period of the year, and therefore to cut through the noise and really get the impressions you need to drive the results you need, I think GMV Max and the paid account it was really critical for that. And if we had the right inputs, lives, like we don't actually do lives internally right now. It's not something we have a process around. We're doing it next year, but I know from looking at brands like P. Louise and brands like I think Somers ran P. Louise's live, but there's a few. I know from knowing the numbers behind some of those live activations, they did crazy volume through the period. And I think that whole live ecosystem is gonna be a big growth opportunity for next year. I think it's a huge driver of awareness and impressions, and then that helps with the whole ecosystem of the brand. And then I think on affiliates, like again, kind of similar to offer for you're making a really good offer for consumers to cut through the noise. You also need to do that for affiliates because they're getting all of the offers from brands over the Black Friday period. It's competitive for consumers. It's competitive to engage affiliates. So yeah, these were a few of the key lessons. But if anyone has any other questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Yeah, we will go to Q&As in a sec, or we can also do one maybe. Yeah, let's do it at the end.
Yeah.
Real quick, just out of curiosity, you mentioned the offer being so important, right? Which makes sense in Q4. Do you then in October or early Q4 test different offers and then use those signals to then scale throughout November? Or how do you or is that done even before Q4 in terms of knowing which offers to run through Black Friday?
Yeah, I think you can test offers at any point of the year to whether that's another sale period in summer, whether that's earlier in the calendar year. Like you want to use those intentionally to figure out what the offer should be over this period.
Yeah.
I think offer construction is it's also quite individual to the business and the outcome you're trying to generate across Black Friday. The narrative and the screenshots you see online and all the marketing from even us is like it's very revenue focused, but not it's not that's not what like the whole period should not always be focused on top line revenue. It's like maybe your business needed to clear stock in certain SKUs and we wanted to go way more aggressive discounts for those products and that served the business better. Or maybe we wanted to go and focus on profit and it's like we built an offer that really focused on profit bottom line, sacrifice top line. So I think it's partly testing and it's partly strategic and it's work doing that having those conversations earlier enough in the year to ensure that you're all set to execute when you go into November.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, then maybe as the last part, and then we go to the Q&As because I'm sure that people will also have questions regarding what we just discussed on Black Friday and Q4. Just taking all of this and then wrapping it up, looking ahead to 2026. A lot is changing. What would you say, Ollie, are kind of the things which the audience and D2C merchants should focus on in 2026 in order to succeed?
Across TikTok Shop, I think we're just going to continue to see this boom of social commerce and TikTok Shop. I think it's a really exciting platform for new customer discovery, and it's we've not had one of these for a while, so I think there's so much upside to still be captured. I think we're going to move more into that pay to win era of like GMV Max, paid ads, and the barrier to driving more scale being creative, high quality creative volume, and and really moving away from organic towards that as a channel, which will obviously benefit TikTok. I think behind that you've got like creator communities. The fundamental constraint on TikTok at the moment is a high volume of really good creators. So I think we'll see the rise, and we already have seen this in the US and even in the UK in places like creator communities that are focused on relationships, education, and quality over quantity. So making an army of creators that will sell for your brand and incentivizing them well and giving them education and input into that process. I think we'll see AOV grow on TikTok Shop as like a trend. I don't have that data, but I imagine if you look at AOV of the platform over time, it's probably on a positive trajectory in TikTok because the behavior is becoming more normalized and people are getting more comfortable with parting with larger volumes of cash on the channel. I think we've seen, like I mentioned, Shark Ninja. I've seen a few different stores like that that are selling at higher AOVs, generating huge volumes. I think we'll see more of that. I think we'll see more enterprise brands enter the game. I think Vans launched recently, Ralph Lauren, like these big corporates are coming onto the channel. And then live shopping. I think we're just so obviously TikTok Shop is growing exponentially. I feel like live shopping is still even earlier in that whole process, but I see that just going crazy over 2026 as a sales channel.
Yeah, you hear that a lot actually. People saying that live, I mean, in China, it's huge, and a lot of people are saying that it's already starting, right? But indeed, still in the early days.
Have you bought
So
anything off live? Have you bought anything from a live shopping idea?
Uh, me personally, not, but we could put that actually in the audience. If anyone is in the audience ever bought something live, then please put yes in the comments. I think it's still quite new to the West, but
Yeah,
uh,
it is.
yeah, there are there are also companies who are facilitating. I forgot the name, but it's a huge company. Also, they raised a lot of money who are facilitating this live shopping. So it's not only starting; it's already quite big in the West as well. So I think
Yeah,
that's a good one to look into heading into 2026.
yeah, 100%. I think it's just it's unusual for people who are like older, like our age, but you got to think that younger demographic are just going to grow up with that being the normal way to purchase and interact with brands. And
Yeah.
you, as a brand owner, you've got to stay on top of that because it's a matter of time before it becomes a really big share of revenue and discovery.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, someone in the audience just put it. It's Whatnot, the company which
Yeah,
I didn't know the name of. They're facilitating this indeed, and yeah, so someone's wife already shops on live. So yeah, I think it's not even that new. So it's definitely something interesting to look into. Um, Look, we have some time for Q&As.
yeah.
If you guys have questions, please drop them in the comments and we will go through them. I already saw one question. Do you need a decent
Yeah.
following?
Yeah.
Do you need a decent following in order to run a paid ad campaign on TikTok? So I assume she means a decent following on your organic account, right? If I understand the question correctly. Ollie, you want to take that?
Not to as a brand, if you're running, I'm assuming that's just like paid in general. You can run it with no following. There's a limit on shop. You need a certain amount of followers, and I always forget what it is. To be honest, I should know that. But you need a certain amount to activate. I think in general, it is better to have an organic presence
Yeah.
because I think it acts as see, TikTok is best done with like an ecosystem approach because I think that's how people use the channel. Like they'll look at your organic as like a second step after they found you on an ad. So yeah, no limits on paid. There is a limit on TikTok Shop, but I would definitely do it anyway.
Yeah, we also see that often with influencers. If you contact them, if you have a decent organic following with like 10, at least 10,
Yeah,
20K, it helps to increase trust, right? And get more creators to work with you. Um, what's the working incentive structure? Do you see paid per video plus commission or higher commission or else? So this is for affiliate marketing then. Um, Paid per video, so that's a fixed fee plus commission or
yeah.
solely commission. Ollie, what do you often see?
I think early on you want to be as aggressive as you can be. I think both of those are models that. Okay, Ryan, I've got that wrong. Thought there was, sorry. I think both models can work. I know from working with a lot of creators that like certainty of outcome, so commit like pay per video is very attractive. Like it's cutting through the noise of what others aren't offering. Um, and I think yeah, but I think both can work. But I would maybe just test. Um, does that answer your question? I don't know.
Depending also on your budget, right? So
Yeah,
what
yeah,
we talk to when it comes to affiliates is actually because the performance distribution, and you mentioned that earlier, Ollie, right? There's a very small group of creators which perform well, and then
yeah,
you have a lot of them which don't. It's almost similar to creatives, right? Where you test a lot of creatives and a small percentage are winners. It's the same with influencer marketing. So then we actually recommend to start with affiliate and gifting to test
yeah.
and see which ones perform, and then you can offer fixed payments to the ones which drive meaningful results or create very, very high quality UGC.
Yeah,
Um,
that is how I would approach. That's the tier set structure. I think if it's like bring them in on commission, move them up once they've proved value, and put them on a retainer if they're going to make more assets.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I agree.
Do you
Um,
think TikTok is suited for disaster survival?
I think on that disaster survival gear, I think looking back at does it meet those criteria we put up on screen? If so, 100% yes. If it doesn't, like if the margin isn't great, yeah, I'd have to know a bit more about the product, but I don't see why not if you can create compelling content around it and it has enough margin to create an offer that really is attractive for consumers and affiliates. Um,
Is it true that TikTok prioritizes running affiliates natively in the platform? Influence hero requires a link in bio to track commissions, correct? So the first part, is it true that TikTok prioritizes running affiliates natively on the platform? Do you
As
understand
in,
the question in terms of natives? I'm not sure.
as in,
Maybe
do you mean running your affiliate program through their channels of communication rather than off channel?
this question was previously in June, fully covered.
So,
Yeah, maybe the person can clarify that question. Let's move quickly on to the next one because we need a little bit more information on that one. So to use influencer hero with TikTok. In my experience, pushing buyers off platform to custom link doesn't perform well with algorithm. Yeah, so essentially, what Olly mentioned previously in terms of implementing the affiliate campaigns, and you need to work with ideally with a lot of influencer affiliates, right? So how you can leverage Influence Hero essentially using the database. So we have all existing TikTok creators on the globe. In total, our database is over 400 million accounts. So everyone with more than 1,000 followers is in there. And then you can filter based on demographics, country, etc. And essentially, we automate the entire outreach process. So if you want to leverage affiliates on TikTok Shop, what you do, you add all the relevant creators into your campaign. You automatically outreach them using email, essentially, using follow-ups, and it personalizes using AI. And then the second part of the question is pushing buyers off platform to custom links. Yeah, so in IH, you can use affiliate links to your Shopify as well. But obviously, if you want to run it on TikTok Shop, you need to tell the creators to run the affiliates to TikTok Shop and not to your CMS. I hope that covers the part of that question.
I think good affiliate commission. What is considered a good affiliate commission percentage for physical product? I think you want to try and get affiliates to be earning $5/4 per order. Really, I think that's really attractive if you can get them there. Obviously, the more the better. And as you start to, I see affiliate commission and volume as like two signals. So like the affiliate commission is the incentive, the volume of sales through a store is the certainty of outcome. So as you start to get more established on the channel, you can start to pull down the commission and maybe take more margin for yourself, or move them onto retainers, or like play around more with that structure. But I think when you're starting out, you want to be as aggressive as your constraints financially and margin wise allow, because you'll get more volume and traction.
Yeah, we had that conversation actually prior to this a little bit, right, Ollie? I think what I'm always surprised about is that a lot of merchants are quite conservative with the affiliate offer to creators, but essentially, right, you're paying still significantly less than what you're paying in terms of acquisition on Meta or other platforms. So be generous, and I typically say give around 30%, right, if you can afford it, because also there's a on attribution rate. What we see typically is that around 70% of the sales are being attributed and around 30% are unattributed because things just get lost, right? So which means essentially if you offer, for example, 20% affiliate commission, you're actually only paying 14%, right? 70% multiplied by the 20%. So what Ollie said, like be aggressive. I also always recommend do as much as possible. You can lower it later down always. How are you, Ollie? Do you still have time to cover more of the questions, or
I've got another minute. um,
because
uh,
this might go on for quite some bit. So just let me.
no, you're
So
good. I want to share this resource, which is like a resource on some of the bits that we mentioned earlier, which is like how we operationalize creativity for TikTok Shop.
yeah,
Which
yeah.
question do we want to touch on?
Should we do like maybe the last question? Because otherwise, let me quickly check. Let's just pick a few more. GMV Max.
Heather, just where Heather said that, you can basically, Heather, you can set up, you can retain commission for one set of affiliates and set up a separate campaign for others, so you can adjust it without impacting previous campaigns.
Yeah. So Heather's is raising the concern that lowering it later. Yeah, that's actually something which is true. If you increase it to 30% with existing affiliate, it becomes quite tricky to lower it because it demotivates them. So
The
yeah.
thing, the thing I would say about that is like when you're looking at the people who are probably already in that 30% program, there'll be a top 5% of affiliates that are actually driving value to the business, and the rest of them probably won't be doing much. So I would just speak to those affiliates ahead of time, put them on a different structure if you don't want to be offering them 30%. But there won't be that many people in there that are actually really driving revenue, I'd imagine. So you can make that change.
Yeah, also what I often see is that you need to run the communication over and over again. So whenever you run campaigns with affiliates, let's say you have a summer campaign, you invite the creators and you offer 30% or 20%. And then when you invite them again to Black Friday, you need often to do another outreach to them to say, hey, we have Black Friday coming up. Often these creators, they also forget a little bit about these percentages. They're like 2 months or 3 months in between. So then you can renegotiate, tell them this time it's 20%, and often they will still agree. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. I would worry more about being too conservative and then at the beginning not getting a lot of creators to work with you. Yeah. So, Ollie, you will, well, essentially, we will be waiting for the session on the hooks, which we'll be releasing soon.
Yeah.
I will put the link to your podcast into the description for the people who see the recording. I can really recommend it, right? I think it's really the best D2C podcast out there. And I listen to a lot of them. So, immense value, always founders, well, really important people in the scene who share their story and direct insights for brands. So I will share that link also in the description. Ollie, where can people find you when they want to learn more about you?
Yeah, thank you. Firstly, thank you for having me on, Peter. Been a pleasure. And thank you everyone for tuning in and listening. Hope it was valuable. Any follow-ups, just message me or give me an email. D2C Diaries on YouTube, Olly Hudson with a Y on LinkedIn, and Oliver W. Hudson on Twitter. They're probably the best places. Maybe LinkedIn, because my Twitter inbox is a nightmare. But yeah, thank you very much. Really appreciate the time.
Amazing.
Hope everyone has a good rest of the year.
Yeah, we will put all the links below as well, so you can find Ollie there. Ollie, thank you so much for sharing all of this value with us. We really appreciate it, and yeah, thanks everyone in the audience for making it until the end. And yeah, have a great evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you guys are. Thank you so much.
Cheers, guys. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye.